right. All right, so I need you to tell me a little bit about your national championship dominance for a couple years.
Okay.
Come on, I got to hear this because we never had, with none of our guys, they were good, but no one ever two-time national championship.
Man, yeah, well, it was crazy, and I was telling my partner the other day, I was like, man, that was the quickest rise and fall of the ego I think I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Just, at 1920, I don't think I was, because after that I was getting called, I was on the news. KCCI had interviewed me a couple of times. I was in Glamour magazine.
Yeah, I saw both of those. They're still on YouTube today.
Oh God. Oh geez, don't
Yeah,
drop
they
that.
are. Here, I can pull them up. We can pull them up.
Please do. Let's see them.
Okay. Here, hold on a second.
Oh yeah, I want to see.
Ooh, here it is, right here.
No.
Iowa State boxer finds glory and glamour.
Let's
Capital
go.
G. Capital G. Let's go.
That was a setup.
Let's see. Okay, so you tell us about it. Why?
Well, it was funny because when I received the email, I thought, oh, this is a gimmick. There's no way this is a joke. And then she followed up, and I was like, oh, this is real. And I think, 19 and 20. And I came in undefeated, right? So that's one of we have this conversation, and this sounds so stupid. And again, of course, it's coming from me, who's got an undefeated record, but it's like, you got to know what it feels like to get beat up or to lose or something. Because, there's an element of that, I think, that just is necessary, especially in highly competitive environments. But I had come in as a freshman, taking the class because going back to the beginning of the conversation, I had no prior boxing experience. And I was one of the few females. I think there was, less than a handful of females.
Fun fact, I think when I was a student, I think we had the very first female Iowa State boxer.
Oh my God.
I think she was first. Actually,
Okay.
oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what her I don't remember her last name, but she is in the Ames area still.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, serious. I just talked to her. She runs hold on a second. Roman's Ranch Horses.
Oh my God. Okay, we need to connect.
I think she was first. I think she was.
Okay.
I think she was the first. She might have been the first ever on the
Wow.
team. And then
Okay.
during the year that I was in the cast at regionals, I think they had the first sanctioned women's bout at a regionals, but it was an exhibition because there was no bracket. There's literally just the two in the entire thing. That was 90. That would have been 95.
So 2014 was actually the first year that they allowed women to compete at both the regionals and the national tournament.
Did that really take a decade? Serious? Wow.
Here we are.
Okay. All right.
But that was the first year that I competed, and it was kind of a similar thing, right? And sometimes it's difficult because it is still very much a male-dominated sport. We're trying to change that around, so we have a lot more females now. But going in with the brackets...
Well, imagine my surprise. So when I look up Iowa State boxing, I look up Iowa State boxing, I'm like, the coach is a woman. I was like, that's awesome, But then I find out, she's national champion twice. And then your advisor is also female. And I was like, times have changed.
And our president's female. Yeah, I mean, and it's...
Yeah, and your president of the club
so
is female. I was like, well, and then, because I was telling Olivia, my TA, I was like, you should do this. And she's like, oh, I think she said something about, women in the sport. And I was like, no, I think things are different. And then I'm like, look it up. I'm like, yeah, things are very different.
I'm going to gas up. I've got a little 112-pounder. And she's one of those people who can't gain weight to save her life. So when you're trying to make up because you got to be within a certain, pound limit to be able to box. For rules?
Oh, for rules. Yeah, I was going to say that's not a sparring rule. That's not a sparring rule.
At sanctioned competition bouts, So she was always someone who I'd have to bring in and go, oh, my God, I know you're not hungry. I know you want to throw up. I know you're nervous. I need you to eat this loaf of bread before you get on the scale. Otherwise, we can't make this happen.
I need you to eat this loaf of bread.
I need you to gain 13 pounds in 5 seconds. Let's do this.
Put quarters in your pockets, whatever you got to do. But this story is great. So 112 pounds. And she's working with, and again, I have some of the most phenomenal people in that gym on the planet. And so I had a guy come in that was, I don't know if you guys remember Alex at all from Spain. Didn't you spar with him a little bit, Al?
Yeah, I'll tell you a bit about that.
Yeah, it was a shocker. That was the first time I sparred. It was quite the shocker. He was good. He was heavy.
Yeah, heavy, fast.
Heavy hitter.
Yep, good on his feet.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, that was the gist of it. I of course bled at the nose, but yeah, no, it wasn't too bad. It was just a bit of a shocker because when you're first getting into sparring or fighting, it's just, I thought the gloves would be softer.
No, trust me, the gloves do not get softer even if you go against a more experienced opponent. My first person I sparred was a professional, and I got myself rocked multiple times. Non-amateur, no, someone that just debuted for their first professional fight.
Oh my God.
Oh.
6 foot, 180 pounds.
Oh.
And coach is like, hey, he's like the only person we have that's close to you. I'm like, who's the next person? Oh, we have a 110 pounder. I'm like,
So this little 12-pounder avenged your bloody nose, Al, because she was working with this guy named Alex, and of course you're looking at it and you're like, what happened here? But she asked him, and it was like, okay, you're doing drills only. This girl's got, like you said, Mack trucks on the end of her hands and bloody nose both nostrils for this guy who was like, what, I don't know, 215, 220, something like that.
Yeah, I think over there.
Yeah. So size versus size of the fighter was crazy. But circling back, yeah, so when I had competed, so came in, took the class, was one of the only females. To John Swanson, my coach's credit, he had saw something in me, so he's like, all right, we're going to push you. And it was just me with this kind of gaggle of guys. And just at that time, it was much smaller. And this is not to detract from the bond, but I think because of the close proximity of all of us and how few of us there were, there was a lot more attention in terms of being allocated. And, he's like, okay, this is the first year we can put females in. Do you want to do it? And, in my head, biggest ego on the planet. I said, yeah, I can take it, blah, 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 because I'm getting all these wonderful compliments from these guys. They're like, oh, my God, you hit really hard, you're really fast, things like that. And I go in there, and again, not many females, right? So the bracket's small. And to be perfectly honest, you're going up against the same person multiple times. Right. Depending on your situation, I don't know if that's better or worse.
Ooh, I'd say a little bit worse because you get a chance to analyze, regroup, and dial your plan in for the next time. Yeah. Hence, me and Tim. Because we fought so many times, you literally dial in what you're planning on doing.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, at such an amateur level, right, especially regionals, nationals, you've got, 2 to 3 weeks between. I'm sorry. How much turnaround are you going to have on a skill versus defaulting what you've normally done? But, yeah, I went in 2014, a cool experience. I got to box this girl from West Virginia. So I boxed her at regionals. We were in Miami, Ohio, and then we went to West Point. So we actually got to box at the military academy at West Point, which is really
that's cool.
Yeah, that was neat. And then second year, I think same thing. Coach is like, you're still here. Do you want to do another one? And I think at this time, I was starting to get a little bit nervous. I think the nerves set in. The first time you box, you're so absorbed by the adrenaline. I think you don't, and you don't know what's going on. You don't know the series of events and things like that. So you're kind of going through the motions. You're jazzed, you're hyped.
Oh, it's enough to totally overwhelm your senses and just get the biggest charge out of. Yeah. That's why I loved it so much. I was like, oh, I just like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But the more that you do it, the more that you can kind of expect, and it's like, oh my God, like
then it becomes manageable.
Yeah, and you just kind of work through that. So went back in 2015, did the same thing. This time it was up against a gal from the Naval Academy. And I will admit this, honestly, my bout at regionals, it was on home turf, disadvantage, because again, my ego was massive at this point. This is when the Iowa State Daily was printing papers.
Yeah.
And that's not digital. So my face was on all these papers. It was like when it was available on campus, they put my face on the main page. I mean, my God, you go into the lead boxing room, they put my picture up there. So at 1920, it's difficult.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, this visibility, and I just didn't know how to deal with it. So I turned into the cockiest butthole of a human, But to be perfectly frank, I think that helped me in the ring sometimes. Just coming in with a little
sense
bit
of
of that
invincibility is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
not a bad thing.
And again, when it's in
moderation.
In moderation, yes, because there was a downfall. Right?
Yeah.
But also, having that motivation, being able to dig deep and stuff like that. So yeah, we went back in for a second time in 2015, and my wake up point, and this was my downfall, at the regional tournament, it was on home turf. Again, massive ego, and because it was at home, I felt that I had the advantage. And I was so embarrassed. So I love my dad to pieces, and I value, his opinion more than anybody else's. And that was the only bout that he had attended live and watched. My mom refused. She just didn't like watching it, which is fine. And that was the most embarrassing spectacle of a performance I have ever given in my boxing career.
Ooh,
it was
really.
Yes.
What happened?
It was a horrible display of just like, I don't even want to say sportsmanship, but just it wasn't clean, and I know you can, okay, it wasn't like I was doing anything dirty either, but it just wasn't who I was in the ring. It wasn't who I wanted to embody, and we all have off days. I understand that, but I think, kind of the emotions and the feelings leading up to that really set the stage for that type of performance. And I'll never forget this. It's one thing to tell you, for your coach to tell you a bad job. And my dad didn't tell me I did a bad job, but we went out to dinner afterwards. And, we're sitting across from each other at the table. And I said, "What'd you think?" And he goes, "It was all right." And that just destroyed me. And here's the thing. Here's the worst part, too. I felt that I should have lost.
Oh, yeah.
Walking out of that, I was like, no way. And again, this is another thing, right? It happens in football, basketball. Judging, unfortunately, can be biased.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, actually, we may have ran into that at a regionals once.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think I had home turf advantage. I mean, and this is no discredit to the judges. I went back and watched that footage a million times, and I thought, I don't know what they saw. I won by split decision. And I went to her parents afterwards, and I said, I don't think I should have won that.
Oh, wow.
And my coach even sat me down. He said, if you perform like that at nationals, I'm not working with you ever again.
Ooh.
So it was just a lot of this where I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Yeah. And so that, that was probably the biggest down. And again, I'm someone who I think when I win, I want to know I've earned it and deserved it. Yeah. And that was just a totally unfair. It felt like a handout for whatever reason. So, came back, trained really hard. My head coach and the assistant coaches were working with me and just totally obliterated her at nationals. The entire Naval Academy team stood up and booed because they did not agree with the decision. That was like the biggest shock of my life. Yeah, that was crazy. I was like, okay. But I went back and watched it, and I was like, I had all 3 rounds for that one. But and then I think
so. A little fun fact: one of the guys that I was in the Marine with. What year was that?
2015.
Okay, now then he was. Well, no, hold on. He did 2 stints as a Marine officer at the Naval Academy, as a Marine.
Okay.
And he was the head of the Liberal Arts and Sciences College at the Naval Academy. Just retired last year.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he could have been there. He could have been there.
He probably wasn't one of the ones that stood up and booed.
No, he would have been.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, probably loudly. He's red hair, skinny, really ugly. Okay.
No wonder he boos others.
Exactly. No, it's true. It's
now
true.
I kind of feel like being called out because I have all 3 of those calls.
Hey, you're a good-looking dude, bro.
But I have red hair.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Hilarious. But yeah, so that was kind of rise and fall and live, but
well, but you know what though? You look back and it's like, some of the hardship and difficulties come from odd angles. Yeah, sometimes that hardship is success. Sometimes it is you become a victim of your own success, and it can happen. And you know what's great is it makes you a better coach because you can point it out to someone else.